Well, hey, everybody. Time for Mike in the Midwest 166. Let's do this. Phone on do not disturb, and let's go. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to episode number 166 of Mike in the Midwest, our mini podcast where we get together with folks like you, patrons of the Be Our Guest podcast. Hope you're having a great week. Of course, my name is Mike Rallman, host of the Be Our Guest podcast. You can find us at beourguestpodcast.com and all the places where you download finer podcasts. Hope you're having a great week, and thank you for being here. And we are wrapping up the month of September. Can you believe it? What's going on here around the Be Our Guest Podcast Studios? Well, it is homecoming week here in the Francis Howell School District for the Francis Howell Vikings. So we're having Spirit Week here from Mallory's High School. The Francis Howell Vikings, or the football team, is doing better lately, but we had a big win against our crosstown rival, the Troy Trojans, last week, one of the better teams in our area. So that was a big victory for us Friday night. So we're pretty pumped about that. Again, this Friday, homecoming game against another good squad, which they don't like us much. So it'll be fun to take on they're the Fort Zumwalt West Jaguars. So that's coming up this week. So it is an exciting time. The town will be out at homecoming. And then, of course, Saturday night, Mallory has the dance and stuff like that. She has a what's called powder puff football game on Friday as well. She's a tight end. So that's pretty impressive. Cheerleader, daughter, sophomore, playing football. I guess she's catching passes. I'm not allowed to go to the practices. I would like to go. I don't have any sons. I'm a huge football fan. And I've, keep telling her, like, I want to go, like, I want to coach, but the high school boys coach the girls, because again, powder puff football is all girls, and so the boys are the coaches. So the dads aren't even allowed to be around. So, I would love to be a football coach, but of course, when you have a 15-year-old daughter, dads are not cool. So I can't be around, but I'd love to see it. And so I think it happens during school hours, so I will not get to see the game, but I'm sure there will be video footage somewhere. Will I get to find it? Who knows? But I'd like to see some of the game. But that's what's happening here around the Be Our Guest Podcast Studios. We have some great shows for you this week. Listener questions heading your way tomorrow. Friday show gets way, way, way off the tracks. We tried to kind of set the scene for the Halloween season a little bit early to get you in the mood for Halloween, because October 1st is Sunday, to kind of get you in that mood. So we talked about where you might find non-obvious spooky places around Walt Disney World when it comes to places at the resort, specific places. Like I'll give you a little preview. I find at night or super early in the morning on my runs, Alligator Bayou at Riverside a little spooky because of the Spanish moss. I don't know if you guys find Spanish moss a little spooky, but at night when it hangs down, there's something about that. Maybe it's because, like, in the old Scooby-Doo, and I don't say this on the show, but I just thought about this last night when I was laying in bed. On the old Scooby-Doo cartoons, a lot of times is like Scooby and Shaggy were going around. I swear they use Spanish moss in the cartoons. Like, they go through like a forest or something. There'd be Spanish moss hanging down here and there, and it made it just eerie and spooky. And so now I associate Spanish moss, especially in dark places, with like swampy stuff, because Alligator Bayou at Riverside, if you ever stayed there's like little simulated swampy kind of places under bridges. I don't know. That's kind of spooky to me. So we give a little places in resorts, restaurants that have a little bit of an edge to them. The attractions other than Haunted Mansion and Tower of Terror, those are gimmies. So we kind of get you in your mind's eye. We just want to give you get you thinking about Halloween and that time of the year, get you a little edge. So that's coming your way on Friday. Hope you enjoy that show. Hope you're enjoying the shows. If you ever have a suggestion for a podcast, especially for a Friday show, let me know. To shoot me an email, mike@beourguestpodcast.com. I would love that. We have done 23 200 plus podcasts. I want to do the show that you want to hear. This is our show, especially us, the patrons, and all of you guys that you guys are physically supporting the show, financially supporting the show. You want to hear something, I want to give you what you want to hear. So let me know. Just Mike at brguestpodcast.com. Say, Mike, hey, here's a good idea, especially for like, we're coming into Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, some kind of a seasonal take on something. I love that stuff. I'm very much into the holidays. So let's do it. You come up with an idea that would help me out so that on Monday morning, Monday afternoon, I'm not sweating like, okay, what are we going to do this week? What can I do to hopefully entertain our thousands and thousands of listeners that'll be worth their time? Because I always worry about the Friday shows that it's not going to be exciting. It's hard to come up with something novel when you've done as many shows as we have. So we have those shows coming up, and of course Sunday night. I hope that we can carry that on, and you can give me a call, and Scott, and we can talk about you know what you find, what places in the what resorts, or not just the resorts, but like what areas of resorts do you find a little spooky, and what restaurants do you think have kind of a little bit of an edge to them, and what attractions kind of a little spooky. We'd like to kind of continue that on Sunday night. So that's what's going on. Homecoming around here. Mizzou football rolling. Let's use the road bell. We're doing pretty good. I'm liking it. I don't want to curse it, but we're heading down to Vanderbilt this week. So hopefully we can take care of business in Nashville. And then we got a big date with LSU coming up in a couple weeks. So things are looking good in Mike's world when it comes to football, which that's not very often. So, I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop, but I'm enjoying life right now. That's why I got my black and gold on all the time. I'm going to wear it while I can. All right, let's hit the feedback from last week. Last week we talked about basements, and I gave you an iOS 17 tip because iOS 17 just came out the day before Mike in the Midwest last week, because it came out on Monday, and we did the show obviously on Tuesday, and I gave you that tip about making the stickers. I hope you've been sending those stickers, the animated GIF stickers, to everybody in your family, all your friends. I've been inundating Paige and Mallory and Pam and Scotty G with these stickers. I've found pictures of Scott from his races. There's one where he wore all Sparty gear. I can't remember what race that was. Springtime Surprise, maybe. He ran it with a foam finger from Michigan State. He had his Michigan State gear on. I've got a sticker I keep sending him of that from the race. I have lots of Riley. The trick is, if you want to use this again, I did talk about this last week, but it's an iOS trick. You got to take live photos, turn live photos on, because if you have a live photo, that allows you to make animated GIFs. So just turn your live photos on for a little bit, because that'll make the stickers awesome. Because that way the stickers move when you send them to people, especially if you want to use a dog or something. It makes them cute as anything, like Riley eating an ice cream cone or a pup cup. Adorable. Anyway, let's get to Dennis. Dennis says, the number one thing I don't like about houses in Texas is that they don't have basements. My understanding is that the Texas soil and clay won't support them. Houses are built on pier and beam or slab foundations here. I'd love to have the storage space that a basement affords. I loved having a basement as a kid and teenager in St. Louis. My dad had his workshop down there. My brothers, our friends, and I would hang out in the basement and build forts, play, shoot pool, lift weights, and just hang out. I've learned to live without one in the two houses I've owned, but I miss the extra space they provide. Speaking of a pool table, I've told my wife, because my 50th birthday is coming up in November, Thanksgiving-ish. I would kind of like, I've told her, like, I don't know if I need a trip. I think I'd like to have a pool table. And I've been kind of putting a little money away. I wouldn't need a fancy one. I don't need like one that has like feet that look like a bear. I've seen all those fancy pool tables, right? I just want one where you can play pool. Like that's one thing, I'll be 50. I would like to learn I've played pool here and there, but not a lot. But I think it'd be fun to play pool. Like that'd be something that I could, but here's the thing. I never leave my house. I work from home now. I'm not an intentional hermit, but I have nowhere to go other than to watch Mallory cheer. I go to the high school football games. We have season tickets to Mizzou football. So we go to Columbia to watch, to 8 football games a year. We drive, it's a couple hours away. We go to those games. We go out to eat sometimes, but we don't go hardly anywhere I rarely leave the house, and I think if I got a pool table, that would just keep me in the house more, but we have a spot in our basement where a pool table would go, and I think it would be fun. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I'd be good at pool, but I think it would be fun. And I've always kind of wanted a pool table. So I don't know. I don't even know how expensive they are, but I think it'd be a fun like 50th birthday present. But they're real big and heavy, and it'd probably be a pain in the rear to get in the basement too. We do have a door now though in our basement. We didn't used to have that, so we'll see. Tricia says, basements were a big part of my life. As a kid, we would hang out in the basement to escape the heat. No central air. Yeah, same with us when I was a kid. And during tornado warnings, same here. As an adult, we've been lucky to have partially finished basements in the homes we've owned. Our current basement is split in half by the stairs. We have a nice rec room on one side where kiddo has play dates and practices trombone. Keeps the rest of the house quiet. The other side is split between my husband's workbench and my workout area. We greatly appreciate having it. Yeah, seriously. Like we have our store like I my treadmill is in our storage room. But it also because it's where we keep like the Christmas tree, the luggage, all the junk. It's all for the storage for all the stuff that we have, right? It's our storage containers. There's all kinds of my hockey gear from when I used to play hockey. I mean, it's all of our stuff is in there, but it's also my treadmill, a second broken treadmill from our old house, an elliptical which never gets used, and just it's the storage room. We have that, but we also have the finished living room down here. We have this office. We have a bathroom down here, so it is kind of nice. It's mostly like a second floor. I guess it'd be a first floor because it's the basement. But it makes our house because our house is small. If we didn't have this basement, our house would be extremely small. It'd be like a tiny apartment. Francesca, thanks for being here. Francesca, appreciate you. Says I grew up having a finished basement in the house and we loved it. We had a ping pong table down there, and at one point my parents switched it out for a pool table. It was always the place the kids would go to hang out at a family gathering in the wintertime. We would host Halloween parties down there too with all kinds of fun games. Anyone remember bobbing for apples? As an adult, my house had a large basement, partially finished. My husband has his office down there, and there's a section for my kids' playroom and a laundry room. The unfinished part is storage, which I plan to clean out and organize. Hasn't happened yet. Your basement sounds a lot like our basement right now because this is my office. It's also the podcast studio. And yeah, but our laundry is upstairs. But yeah, we have the storage room and we don't, kids don't have a playroom. But I've thought about that. If we get a pool table, back to my pool table, maybe that would be incentive for Mallory's friends in high school to come hang out at our house. Now, I will say, here's the rub with that. Of all of Mallory's friends, we by far have the smallest house of all of her friends. Her friends all have huge houses compared to our house. I mean, they all have in-ground swimming pools. They all have 5 bedrooms and huge finished basements. They all live on there's a big country club right behind our house. We don't live on the country club. We live out by the highway. But all of her friends live like in the country club part. So she always goes over to their house for the most part. Rarely do her friends hang here. But maybe if we had a pool table, but I bet you all her friends have pool tables. I'm just guessing. Because like they all have golf carts and they have all the fun stuff. They have all the toys, the ATVs. So yeah, I doubt having a cheap pool table is gonna sway anything here, but I could think I would like it. I'm just excited that I have an electronic dartboard here. So that's just me. All right. John Luther says, I grew up with a finished basement. Our family room was where the TV and my Commodore 64 were. God, I love my Commodore 64 growing up. Medic, Beachhead 2. We also had a pinball machine, which sounds awesome, but honestly, once you get used to it being there, you end up not using it that much. You can guess that I spent most of my time there, and that's where I'd hang out where I had friends over. Yes. And a pinball machine. Now pinball machine or pool table? Because I love pinball. I love pinball. Yeah. I have this pinball app on my iPad. It is awesome. I play it all the time. Anyway, back to John. Fast forward to today, we've got a furnished basement where the TV and Nintendo Switch are. The kids are down there most of the time and will join for family TV time. You've gotten me wondering if part of why I like this house over some others was in part because of the furnished basement, which reminded me of those childhood memories. Okay, you may be honest. When we were looking for houses to move, I was super busy. Pam was out looking at houses, and it was like during a super busy time of the season with travel. So I was at home working, working, working. Pam says, I think I found a house that you might like. You should come out here and look at it. And I was like, I'm super busy. She's like, just come out, swing by, look at it. It's like a 25-minute drive. Just come out and look at it real quick. I was like, fine, I'll come out. I came out, looked at, ooh, hummingbird at the hummingbird feeder. That's rare. Yes, right outside the studio. Sorry. This is how the podcast goes, right? I'm excited. I got a hummingbird feeder for Father's Day, and I finally got a hummingbird right outside the studio. Yes. Anyway, Pam says, come see this house. So I like the neighborhood. Like when I pulled in, because there were like rocks landscaping on our street. I was like, that looks cool. It looks like kind of Disney-ish. But I got and it was on a cul-de-sac. So I was like, I've always wanted to live on a cul-de-sac. That's pretty sweet. And the house was cute from the outside. It wasn't very big, but it was cute. I liked it. Had a little covered porch, not big, but it cool. It was a couple of seats could sit on it. Then I went in. The house was small-ish, but I was like, it's neat. It's got a big deck. It's in a great like place. I like where it is located physically. And then when I went in the basement, I was like, oh, rock on. This basement's cool. It's totally finished. And it's got this room, which was going to be Paige's bedroom. But eventually I said, that's going to be the podcast studio. And that's why I wanted this house. And so I was like, dude, just bid on it. We're buying this house. And so, hello, that's where we are. So, John, yes, that does happen. And finally, Jody with our last comment says, basements. I love them. My grandpa was a tool and die machinist, and he had all sorts of things down there. This is strange, but I love the smell of his basement. I don't know what it was, but it was great. And I would love to go down there one more time to see if it still smells like that. Now we have a finished basement, just redid it last summer because it was circa 1970. Although the house was built in 1990, I'd love to have a basement that was still 1970, to be honest. That'd be so retro. She says, I love that we are able to host all the teenagers to hang out. This past weekend was homecoming, and they all came here after after for movies and pizza. Our wine room is also down there, and it's so truly my happy space. Jody, I heard about the wine cellar down there. I heard it is amazing and that there's even a lock and a combination. I've heard many a story about this and how awesome it is and that it is epic because I've seen photos. It's pretty wild. You have an epic basement and that's what they're for. They're toy rooms. That's the adult toy room. That is so cool. You and Tim. So that's all. Thanks for the great feedback. You guys, I love when you give me feedback like this because basements I think are very much a Midwestern cultural thing. Like it's a part of growing up. Like because as a kid, it's like your club. And it's also a place that in the summer, like some folks said, when you don't have air conditioning, man, you go down there and it's like a cave, right? It's cool year round. It's comfortable. You go upstairs, it might be 20 degrees warmer. So it's a place to escape the heat. And it's also kind of a place where a lot of times the adults will tend to stay upstairs and the kids could go downstairs and kind of have a little privacy. The kids tend to be able to have more of an open area to play games or to get out, slots, maybe trains, bigger play sets. And, basements were the place to be as kids. Like we played in like I said, my friend Ryan's basement, his grandparents. It was kind of a little, it was like your little, it was almost like a tree house, but inside of a house. So it was fun times. Okay. So today's topic. I want to see if you've been here because this is happening in real time right now, because we're recording the show on Tuesday, September 26, 2023. And so yesterday, let me just give you a little feedback. Yesterday, we're recording the podcast. We record them on Mondays. And I had just connected to Ricky. I was waiting for Pam to get on the call. We connect via video. And as soon as Ricky connected, I said, Ricky, wait, because I had the news on the TV here in the studio. And they were doing a story. And I knew this was happening, but I didn't know the date. And they were doing a story about my childhood shopping mall, which I think I've done a mic in the Midwest about it. It's called Jamestown Mall. And the story was that tomorrow, this was yesterday, so this is happening right now today. They are going to demolish Jamestown Mall. They're bringing in the wrecking ball, literally a wrecking ball. That's how they're knocking it down. And they're going to raise the entire mall and make it a green space. They don't know. They don't have any concrete plans right now for what they're going to do with the site. They've talked about this for a decade. They don't know what they're going to do. They're just going to make it a green space at this point. They've talked about mixed use, commercial development, residential. Nobody wants to go. It's not a great area. It's kind of a really rough part of St. Louis. Um, so they don't know what they're going to put. They don't have anybody that really wants to rush in and take this piece of land and develop it because it's not a hot piece of real estate. So the problem is the mall has been dead for a couple of decades. Nobody's really wanted to go there, and it's been 100% closed since 2014. Since 2014, there's been 3 fires at the mall, like big fires where they've had to put it out. There's been collapses of part of the mall, like walls. There's been obviously homeless and vagrants have lived in there and just all kinds of trouble with this property. So it's better to have it, I guess, gone. But it's one of those things like when you think about it, I have so many amazing memories of Jamestown Mall, and it almost hurts today because right now, like I can hear it right in my mind. Bam, bam. That wrecking ball physically crushing the walls of Jamestown Mall. That's the place that when I was 8, 10, going to North County Christian School with my buds, we would go, we get dropped off there on a cold January day, and our parents would just leave us there at like 10:30 in the morning on a Saturday and pick us up like at 5 o'clock in the evening, and we just hang out there and we go to Tape World. And I remember buying the cassette single of trying to think, like George Harrison, I Got My Mind Set on You. That was a dumb song, but I remember getting that there. And we would try not to sneeze here, got allergies today. Um we would snack on things at the mall like Hot Sam. Do you guys remember Hot Sam? It was a pretzel place. So we had that at Jamestown Mall. And I always got they had all kinds of pretzels. And I always got what was called the pizza pretzel. So they would take the soft pretzel and they would dip it in pizza sauce, like mozzarella sauce on one side, and put like Parmesan cheese on top of it. And oh mercy, that was good. We would go around, and the thing was back then as a kid, you would just walk around the mall like it was your little town, right? There was a place called Prince Plus. It sold posters. So you go in there and you would look at your posters of your favorite athletes, cars. You might buy one because you could afford those. They weren't very expensive. $5 maybe. Your parents would give you a little money, you'd save it up. Probably we didn't do a lot of shopping. It was more window shopping. So you'd go in there. There was always a Hallmark store. So you go in there and look at trinkets and stuff like that from movies and stuff, all that kind of stuff. I'm just trying to remember some of the memories I have just of the mall because it's the last day that'll ever exist. I just remember as we walked through the mall, you'd walk past there was a store there called the Tinderbox. We never went into the Tinderbox. But what the Tinderbox was at Jamestown Mall, it was the tobacco store. And I just remember there was that distinct smell as you walked past the Tinderbox of tobacco. And outside it had the Native American statue and just stood there proud as could be. And you knew you walked past the Tinderbox, kind of right in the very prominent kind of crossroads of the mall, like the very middle of the mall, right there, prime location. Our mall had a Walgreens inside the mall. Next to that was a restaurant that was owned by Walgreens called Wags, Wags. It was a sit down restaurant in Walgreens called Wags. I don't know if you had that in your area, but we had a Wags next to our Walgreens where you could sit down, and it was kind of like the K Cafe at Kmart, but it was called Wags. Let me know if you this, I'm trying to spur some memories for you guys so you can let me know like what you had at your malls. Did you ever have a Wags? We didn't have a food court initially at Jamestown Mall. We just had scattered restaurants around. We had an A&W root beer where you could sit down and have dinner, or lunch, dinner, whatever you wanted. We had one of the only Chick-fil-A's in St. Louis in our mall. We had back in these days, you didn't have any like standalone Chick-fil-A's like restaurants. They were only in malls, and we only had like 3 in the entire city, and one was at Jamestown Mall. And fun fact, I ended up working at this Chick-fil-A for like 3 weeks while I was in high school during Christmas season, and then I said, "Whew, too much work." I went right back to working at the skating rink because that was crazy, insane, busy, and hard. So I was like, "Nope, I can just play music at the skating rink." So I worked there for 3 weeks with my buddy, and I said, "You know what? I can just play music at the skating rink, and I'll make 10 cents an hour less and just sit there and play music and drink Pepsi." So I did that. What else? We loved at the mall. There was a store called Pass Pets that was actually next door to Chick-fil-A. And you go, they had the puppies in the window. In the back, they had the hamsters and the gerbils and the reptiles. Of course, they had all the fish in the back wall, so you could look at the fish. It was just a cool store to go in and look at all the animals. I mean, you don't have that very much today. You know, it had there was a store that sold like popcorn buckets. It was always fun to go in there because it had that rich smell of popcorn, buttered popcorn, caramel popcorn, cheesy popcorn. That was always good. You had the ground round down at the one end where you could sit. We didn't go there very often, but there was a ground round right next to Sears. The anchor stores at this mall were Sears on one end, Sticks Bear and Fuller on the other, which turned into Dillard's. I'm trying to think. That was really all we had at first. Eventually, we got a Macy's, but that was like way later. And I'm trying to think, was there another? Well, we got a Dillard's. Dillard's, Sticks Bear and Fuller turned into Dillard's eventually. And Dillard's actually, so Sticks Bear and Fuller and Dillard's had a restaurant in it called the Garden Room, which my grandparents loved going to, and they would take us grandkids, and it was for old people, but they loved taking us there. It was totally for old people. There was a sporting goods store called Casey Sports. God, at least I got so many sporting goods there. Pam used to shop. I just know that we used to have to go there all the time when I knew Pam. There's a place called the Limited. Oh no, not the Limited. It was called Lerner. And then I think it was changed the same to New York and Company. We used to go there all the time. There was also a place where you get your film developed at Jamestown Mall called Prints Plus. They would do your prints in an hour. So you take your film and get it back in an hour. So you drop your film off, hang out at the mall, get your film. I just remember that. That was right next to Casey Sports, where I get all my batting gloves and cleats for baseball. Man, just all the memories, like this is going away, like this is gone forever. There was a place called Oak Tree, which where in high school, that's where you would get your stuff for homecoming. Speaking of homecoming, you would get for the guys, you would get your like fly, shirt and slacks. I don't know what the guys wear to homecoming nowadays, but that's your button up shirt and your shirt, and like you get a tie that would match the color of your date's dress. That's what we wore, looking like you're in like Belle Biv DeVoe or, I don't know, Poison or so. I don't know, whatever, Boys to Men. So that's what we wore. So we get that at Oak Tree, at merry-go-round in the mall. Camelot Music was our big music store in the mall. So you go in there and look at CDs and tapes, and albums were probably on the way out at that point. But it's one of those things, like time goes by. And here's the thing. I almost want to do this today, but I don't have time. And I'm not going to do this because who knows what's on that stuff. When they knocked over the skating rink that I worked at and I grew up in this spinning wheels roller rink, right? My next door neighbors owned it. I was there my entire life. I ran it for almost 2 decades. I mean, I spent most of my life at that skating rink. When they knocked it down because they built a Gold's Gym on the lot, I went up there and I grabbed a brick. I got a brick that was painted. You could I knew where that brick probably came from, what part of the building, and I still have it. I have one piece of the rink. I almost want to go up to Jamestown Mall and grab a brick just to have like one piece of the mall, just to physically have a piece of the mall. I'm not going to do that. It could have asbestos on it or something. I mean, who probably does? It's probably lethal. And it's also in a bad neighborhood, and I don't have time today to go grab that. But I'm kind of that kind of a person. I'd like to physically have something in my hand from Jamestown Mall. But I've come when I was walking on the treadmill this morning, and I walked for a couple hours at least. I was thinking about this as I saw the news story of the wrecking ball literally getting ready to slam into the mall there, right where I used to go in, right next to the movie theater and Wags and Walgreens. That I have the memories. Like I have my grandparents who have been gone now for 20 years, taking us there every year to meet Santa in the main area. and seeing all the little displays that are in the middle part of the mall, the animated reindeer, kind of like animatronics, the displays in the stores, and listening to the Christmas music and walking around with my buddies. When we were in like, seventh grade, going into Spencer's and thinking we were really cool looking at stuff, hanging out in there trying to meet girls. You have the memories are not going away. The mall physically is going away, but the memories are not going away. I'll always have Jamestown Mall in my heart, even though after today, there will not physically be a building. But I think that's how you got to look at things like this. Like, I know Netflix is no longer sending DVDs after this week. DVDs were cool. I mean, I remember when I got my first DVD, I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is so amazing," and they're gone. I mean, they're on their way out. But you still have the stories. You still have the memories of things like this. So, people do say, "Don't be sad it's over. Be happy it happened." That's how I'm going to look at Jamestown Mall. I'm not going to be sad that it's gone. I'm going to be glad that I had a place like Jamestown Mall for so long, that I got to experience and create so many memories there. So let me know. Patreon.com/BRGuestPodcast. Was there a place that went away that hit you kind of hard and that you wish you could go back one more time, but you have great memories from? Let me know. Patreon.com/BRGuestPodcast. We'll get together next Tuesday and we'll hash it all out as we do. I love you guys. All right. So until then, you guys stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you real soon.